In early 49 BC, a Roman general and politician by the name of Gaius Julius Caesar led an army south towards central Italy. He soon reached the river Rubicon, a relatively small and shallow river for all the importance which it has taken on historically. By law, no Roman general was allowed to bring an army south of the Rubicon towards the city of Rome. Regardless of this prohibition, this is exactly what Caesar now planned to do. The crossing of the Rubicon was a pivotal moment in the history of Rome and of the ancient world. It signaled the beginning of a civil war which would bring about the death of the Roman Republic and the emergence of the Roman Empire. It was, in many ways, surprising that this was the case. 3.5 centuries earlier, a Celtic army had marched through this part of Italy and sacked the city of Rome. Back then, it was little more than a provincial town, unknown to most of the world. Its remarkable ascent in the period between when the Celts came through here and when Caesar made his decision to contravene Roman law and cross the Rubicon had seen the rise of a power that would come to rule most of the known world. This is the story of the Roman Republic and its rise and fall. There are two versions of how the city that would come to rule much of the known world first came into being. One is a myth, but makes for a colourful story. In this version, the city was founded by two twins, Romulus and Remus, on the banks of the river Tiber in the year 753 BC. The story is that the pair had been born from the union of Rhea Silvia, a Vestal virgin and daughter of the deposed king Numitor of Alba Longa, with the Roman god of war Mars. They were later abandoned and were raised by a she-wolf by the Tiber. When they grew up, they gathered followers to them and founded the city of Rome around the 7 hills that lie at the center of the city. Romulus subsequently killed Remus after a dispute broke out about which hill the city should be centered on, following which he became the settlement's first king and named the city Rome after himself. Later, this foundation myth would be expanded by the great poet of the early Roman Empire, Virgil. In the Aeneid, he presented a story which claimed that Alba Longa, the city which Romulus and Remus's mother hailed from, was originally founded by Aeneas, a prince of the fabled city of Troy, which he had fled from after the siege of the city recounted in Homer's Iliad. In this way, the Romans claimed a line of descent from the Trojans. As exciting a story as this is, it is almost certainly a complete fabrication. In reality, archaeological investigations have revealed that there were settlements in the region as far back as the Bronze Age, while by 1000 BC there were several villages around the 7 hills of Rome. The city wasn't established all at once. Instead, it emerged from the amalgamation of these villages into a larger town at some stage in the early Iron Age. Defeat at Actium had doomed Antony and Cleopatra's cause. Octavian took his time before pursuing them. He wintered on the northern side of the Mediterranean and prepared for a campaign to Egypt, eventually marching by land through Asia Minor and the Levant to Egypt. For his part, Antony was desperately trying to raise a new army in North Africa, all to little avail. His chances of winning the war had slipped away when he left much of his army in Greece. There is a lot of mythology surrounding what happened at the end of the conflict. Octavian arrived at Egypt and laid siege to the capital Alexandria, following which Antony decided to fall on his own sword rather than be captured alive. The story of him surviving for long enough to be taken to Cleopatra and her then deciding to join him in death by having a poisonous snake bite her is a bit too colourful to have been accurate. It is more likely that she learned that he was dead and drank some poison. Whatever the truth of their passing, the end was the same in the war. Octavian was victorious. Egypt was annexed into the Empire of Rome, completing the annexation of the major successor states to the Empire of Alexander the Great. This also gave the Romans access to the Red Sea, and within a few months, expeditions were being sent out to establish trade with India and other distant lands. The end of the War of Actium left the Roman Republic, or at least what remained of it, at a crossroads. Octavian was victorious, in the same way that Sulla had been a half-century earlier after defeating the Marians, and as his great-uncle Julius Caesar had been 2 decades earlier once he had vanquished Pompey. To any dispassionate observer, it must have appeared that a fresh round of chaos might be imminent. Sulla and Caesar had both claimed the power of dictatores, and both had soon departed from the scene, one through retirement and one through assassination, triggering a fresh race to claim power in the Republic amongst its leading politicians and generals. However, that isn't what would happen this time. Octavian, who would soon become known as Caesar Augustus, would prove to be a shrewder politician than his great-uncle, one who saw a way to placate the political classes of Rome, while also establishing himself as the preeminent citizen of the state. He would become the Imperator, a word which meant commander or conqueror at the time. We know it in its more anglicized version today as the word emperor. As we will see in the next part of this history of the Roman Empire, Octavian would very soon establish the imperial system and become the first emperor of Rome. What do you think of the history of the Roman Republic? Was it inevitable, given how militarized and warlike the Republic became, that a Roman commander would eventually try to seize absolute power over the Republic? Or was the Roman state betrayed by power-hungry figures like Julius Caesar? Please let us know in the comment section, and in the meantime, thank you very much for watching.